Chelsea and Manchester City meeting at Wembley on Saturday in the FA Cup semi-finals. As you can see, Manchester City installed as pretty heavy favourites to advance to the final and keep hopes of a quadruple alive. Craig and Ian still with us. Craig, as we look at those odds, Chelsea pretty heavy underdogs. Should they be that heavy underdogs considering how well they've played under Thomas Tuchel?
Yeah, I think so, because City on their day, if they get all facets of the game correct, will, definitely beat any team in the Premier League. I mean, we can argue about PSG and one or two others in Europe. But if all their facets are firing, then yes, they are. And they've proven that in the Premier League up to this point. I mean, it's getting so boring for them now, and they're actually switching off a little bit. But the interesting thing is Tuchel's been steadfast in this three at the back, and it's been, for the most part, hugely successful defensively. There's been a couple of wobbles. But interestingly enough, and as we saw in midweek again, in quite a few big games, City deploy a false, if we want to call it a false number 9, effectively not a striker. And that's a system that has worked for them without Jesus and Aguero. So how does that leave the three centre-backs? If effectively they haven't got a striker up there, that means it's going to be a heavy overload for the guys in the middle of the park of Chelsea. So it's going to be, I don't think Thomas Tuchel will change the way he's played, but I'm just intrigued in how the three centre-backs, unless they're holding each other hands for most part of the game, are going to be able to handle that movement of not having a potentially natural striker if City go that way. So lots of little intrigue between both teams. But of course, Chelsea, as you rightly said, Sebi, are in a much better place than they were a few months ago, and are a much bigger threat, I would say, than they are, say, 2 or 3 months ago, or they were.
Shaka, interesting matchup between the two managers here. You got Pep, you got Tuchel, guys who are known for being progressive, but who have been a little bit more pragmatic this season. What kind of game do you think we get? One for the neutrals?
Without question, isn't it? I think anytime City step on the park, if City are at their best, regardless of who you support, you enjoy watching Manchester City play football, which is probably why they're such heavy favourites. When they're at their best, there's nobody in English football that comes close, in my opinion. You've seen the pragmatic side, to use your words, Sebi, of Thomas Tuchel. And the question for me is while he was getting his feet properly under the table at Chelsea, we kind of saw how he was building around keeping clean sheets and building this real stingy defensive unit. All of a sudden of late, you've seen Chelsea concede. They lost to West Brom, they beat Crystal Palace, and albeit a goal out of nowhere that meant absolutely nothing against Porto, but you've seen that rearguard breached. And I just feel that against City, with the options that they have, whether they play the false 9 or one of their out-and-out number 9s, I just feel City have too much for them. And I go with the bookies on this. I think City win this.
Ian, you agree with the bookies? Chelsea fair to be big underdogs as they are?
Yeah, they've got one thing going for them, I think. It's quite a quick turnaround for Manchester City. That was an emotional night that they had in Dortmund the other night. They passed the test. I think maybe previous editions of City might have lost. Dortmund were that good on the night, that intense. So to pass that test was something else, I think, for Manchester City. I'm starting to fancy them for the Champions League. But that's quite a quick turnaround to play a game Saturday tea time, UK time. Chelsea have had an extra day to prepare. Having said that, any game Manchester City go into against another English club, they are big favourites to win because they are that good. One of their classiest displays, maybe a signature display this season, was when they went to Stamford Bridge and completely outplayed Chelsea. That was when Frank Lampard was in charge. So bit different with Tuchel. I think Chelsea are in a good place. I think it could be quite a tight game, but I do think City will edge it.
Craig, something we've heard a lot of on this show, especially from Steve Nicol, is that Tuchel needs to settle on his front 3 or front 4. In the last couple of games, it seems as he's done that, and it's not including Timo Werner. Is that the right call?
I think at the moment it is. I didn't see the Porto game. The Porto game, we left it to my colleague there, Shaka Hislop. He pulled the short straw because everybody was running for the hills. Didn't want to watch that game. So I didn't see the performance. Shaq said it wasn't it was a defensive performance. They sat in to get the result, so we didn't really see that attacking three-ball working. We saw it working against Crystal Palace, but for those, and I'm sure Ian saw a bit of that game, Crystal Palace were absolutely woeful. But, the interesting thing is Werner's out of form. Ziyech has had some injury problems, looks a little bit lightweight, come into the side at the start of the season, looked really good, then went back out again. Christian Pulisic himself has had his own injury issues, and that's something that he has to resolve and put some consistency of games together. And then I think we'll see the best of that young man. There's no doubt Mason Mount is and has been one of the first names on the team sheet. He's got so much flexibility, so much desire. He's got goals, work rate, offers everything to a manager. And so he's a shoo-in. But the other side of the coin is lots of people have been scratching their head, pundits and supporters, and I suppose coaches looking at Kai Havertz and his transition from the Bundesliga to the Premier League is just where's his best position, because he did play in several positions for Leverkusen. He was successful playing through the middle for them for a period. And at this moment in time, that position that he's played recently looks more likely that you're going to see a better Kai Havertz potentially in that position than he has been, say, out wide or a little bit deeper. So that's been a bit of a head scratcher. And with the loss of form of one or two others, that's given Tuchel the opportunity to try some different personnel within that formation. And as Stevie Nichols said, Havertz has got the ability to knit things together without being a natural front man. He does have the ability to knit things together. I just don't think we've seen it consistently at Chelsea so far, primarily because he's played all over the place and we're still finding out where his best position long-term is going to be.
Ian, Chelsea are still chasing that first trophy under Thomas Tuchel. Obviously, Manchester City trying to get the quadruple. They're both in the Champions League semifinals. Who do you suppose needs this more?
They both do, is the short answer to that one. Manchester City, I know Pep keeps saying that the quadruple is impossible. It's not, is it? They're closing in on that. They're winning the big games, and they're favourites to win this big game as well. But Tuchel's only been there 5 minutes, really. They've had a couple of defeats. I mean, he might be encouraged by the fact that City, they've just shown just recently that they can have an off day. They did against Manchester United. They did against Leeds, all right, with a much-changed team. I mean, I think the selection will be interesting. I think City will make more changes again. Will Raheem Sterling play? At the moment, he's out of the picture. He only got 5 minutes the other night, didn't start the first leg against Dortmund. So that's how good they are, that they can change it around and still put a really good team on the pitch. So Manchester City, I think, even though they might be a little bit tired and maybe a little even emotionally drained, they can come back on, I think, at Wembley and turn it on again.
Let me answer it a different way quickly, Sebi, to Ian, just briefly. Is if Man City don't win the quadruple, and that's a hell of a feat, by the way. But if they don't win it, nobody will bat an eyelid, really. I mean, let's be honest about it. But if he doesn't win the Champions League again, it'll, as I said in the show a few days ago, it will give the hacks and all the journalists something to write again, because this is the stigma that continues, rightly or wrongly, to follow him around since his Barcelona days, where he had one of the greatest teams of the last 20 years. And, he's been at two big spending clubs since, Bayern Munich and Manchester City. He's coached more world-class players. They have the artillery to win this competition. But so far at both those clubs, he's failed. So that one will bring the most heat on Guardiola. If they win the quadruple, obviously, then he could probably walk away into the sunset. But if he wins the FA Cup and loses the Champions League, there will be headlines about his inability to once again get a big spending club over the line. And that's not going to go away until he gets that done. So he knows that. And I think at the end of the day, he'd love to win all four, but he needs the Premier League, and he definitely needs the Champions League just to get that off his back.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content plus live streaming, make sure to subscribe to ESPN Player.